Welcome back, everyone, to the European Masters. Week 2, Day 2. My name is Chronicler. There's been a changing of the guards. Now me and Ghoulborg, and it was a lot of action today. But in the end, I think most things considered, it all turned out as we expected.
Yeah, it honestly did. And I mean, we just came from a big game with Samsung Morningstars who really did put up a fight. And that's the scenario we always had about them. They were the dark horse coming into this tournament and group in general. And honestly, I think they surprised a lot of people with the way they held on. But in the end, they weren't able to follow through with it. But I think today, Group A in general has just delivered.
It's been so much action, but also I think the delivery and the level of play that we've seen from LDLC is something that me personally has been looking forward to for a long time, because this is the defending champion of European Masters, and they haven't always looked that way.
And that's the thing, right? They've looked a bit inconsistent at times. We know already dropping those the first week where they dropped 2 games with 1-2, and they kind of needed to get all their stuff together for this week, but they've done quite well so far, but I'm not fully convinced yet that they're back in champion form, but they are on the right track.
Who are in amazing form at the moment is K1ck, who, of course, took a very convincing game #1 today, and K1ck is one of those teams where you look at them and there's so much to dive into in terms of talent, in terms of the performance that they've shown thus far. But I really feel like when you really look down to the nitty-gritty, Aibo and Shlatan have just been absurdly good.
In all honesty, for real, yeah. I think Shlatan really reminds me of Shadow in the LEC as well. He's the kind of jungler that will take over the games on champions like Lee Sin as well. But in general, he's just a jungler that got a huge offensive champion pool that can take over the games in the early game and just leads his team to victory through that snowball.
And then if we look at Schalke, because they are the ones who are under a little bit more pressure here. Because if you're not certain, if for the next game, we see K1ck win, they have made it through to quarters. That means that they have the chance to return the win that they made last European Masters. However, if Schalke win, there's still a number of ways in which it can go. The group can evolve specifically because LDLC is, of course, on the heels of D2's teams. But for Schalke, it's been looking inconsistent.
And it really has, and it doesn't help that their playstyle is that they really like the control game. We've seen them play, and when they finally get it going, it often comes from a snowball in the early game, and then it's just objective, pressure, vision, new objective, and you just keep that going. And it's honestly League of Legends by the book that Schalke loves to play. But the problem for Schalke, of course, when they can't play that by the book game, when they're suddenly throwing in a curveball, for example, a guy like Shlatan and players like Aibo who'll just take over the games by themselves through their mechanical skill, that's where it starts to falter for Schalke.
And that's what I'm really going to look when we go into this game, because of course the Ultraliga has had a great year at the European Masters thus far, getting close to the all-Polish finals last time, not quite making it, but K1ck still having a great performance up until the very end where LDLC took them down, but they might be able to get a little bit of revenge for that in the last game of today. But let's focus on the game that we have right in front of us right now. It's K1ck Neosurf versus Schalke 0-4 Evolution. If K1ck win this one, they're through to quarters. If Schalke take this one, there's still a lot of things that can happen. And when looking to the draft, where do you think these two teams respectively are going to focus?
Well, in the beginning, you can already see the approach that Schalke Evolution is taking. You can see that there's a lot of junglers being banned out. And over on the side of K1ck Neosurf, well, you can see that Sertuss is one of the receiving ends of these bans. And I think it's granted, both Sertuss and Lurox as well on the side of Schalke 0-4 are the kind of guys that needs to be stepping up. They are the guys that's bringing the hype. Or granted, Innaxe is doing really well, but honestly, I need to see more from these guys, especially in the early game, because Lurox is going to be matching up against Shlatan, and I need to see that Lurox where he's on a champion that can take over the early game, that can take these objectives, and he's the one that's going to snowball his team.
So basically, can't really give K1ck the space to run away with the game. That's also what we saw last time, where if you get a good matchup for Aibo, even though he swapped into the mid lane, the pressure that he was able to exude was still something that was just not really anything that their opponents could handle. Now, Ashe is being hovered, and it is something that Puki style has really liked, and Puki style in general has been a very consistent force on the side of K1ck Neosurf. And of course, I mean, everyone loves Puki style. We saw it last EU.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I don't know how you can hate the guy unless you hate social media, but that guy was just popping up everywhere. Now, going into this, Sertuss is already going to be picking up the Zoe here. quite interesting, because usually when you're picking up in mid lane in the early game, it's either Orianna where you want to get that control from it, but they really want the high pressure from the beginning from Sertuss, and they're picking it up with the Graves as well, making sense because they already banned in Italy, who's usually the answer into the Graves.
This is, of course, something that you wanted to see. Give both Sertuss and Lurox a way to really influence that early game, influence that mid game, and with this draft, they're really opting into that right from the start. Now I'm wondering, what is the response going to be from K1ck coming out here?
Well, you can already see that they're actually not putting Ibo back onto a champion like Renekton, granted that it was banned. And I actually like the bans coming from Schalke Evolution going back to that. They're not necessarily throwing everything onto Shlatan here, but there are still a lot of offensive champions up. There's still got the likes of Lee Sin that we know that, oh, he might not be the best answer into the Graves, but it is Shlatan, Lee Sin at the same time. Champions like Hecarim's that's wrecking Terra and the Rift that we saw yesterday, also up and available, but they're actually going to be answering the Kindred into the Graves.
And that's a pick that we've seen pop up a little bit here and there. It feels very much like a, you know, if all the other ones are taken, Kindred is something that you can opt into. It can, of course, have that early pressure, have that impact that you might be looking for. But as of yet, K1ck not really opting too aggressively into anything yet, with Ibo not going to be able to exert as much pressure as, of course, did the last game on the Renekton. I'm going to see a little bit of a switch up there, whereas Innaxe will be picking up his Jhin here.
But here's the thing, Ibo doesn't necessarily need to be on a champion like Renekton. He's extremely scary when he is on a champion like Renekton, but he's also really smart about the game. Top laners really excel when you get into the likes of wave management, and that's where if you don't know how to wave management and you're playing against a player that knows how to do it, you're just going to get outclassed by that alone.
So basically, what you say is Ibo's just really good.
He is just insanely well.
It doesn't matter what you put him on.
He is really good. And honestly, I love that you pick Kindred into this, because you can already see with this Zoe, with the Graves, there's going to be fighting around. There's going to be skirmish around it. And you got a great team fighting composition already with your own. You got the pick potential with the Ashe. That's also going to give you scouting potential. And there's a lot to play for here already.
And K1ck, of course, the #1 seed for the Ultraliga. Thus far, they've been looking great. Agar Rogue has also been looking great, of course, have made it already out of their group. It's just a matter of where they're actually going to end up. Meanwhile, though, Schalke representing the Prime League. Prime League, even though they had a great day yesterday with Game Legend going 3-0, have been seeing some inconsistency issues, maybe some positioning errors. Mouse, of course, who go in very hard, but sometimes a little bit too hard. And I hope for Schalke that this is the game where they can turn it around, because this is such a vital game for them to win if they want to keep their chances of really making it through in this group and keep it for themselves.
I would love to see Schalke pick a top laner here instead, so you can actually get the counter pick and get into that. But you opt into the Nautilus here to try and take away it from Mystiques. But honestly, I think the Braum pick was planned all along. You got double AD carry composition. Braum works well with the Ashe alone. Now you got an extra AD carry in the back line. And the K1ck Neosurf teamfight competition already working really well. Braum also extremely well into Zoe, Graves, all these champions that want to throw the range stuff at you.
Now maybe a source of considered AP damage. Instead, they're going to go for a little bit more support here.
And I mean, I honestly love the composition coming out from Neosurf. It's extremely easy to play. You got pressure you can excel through here, and you got pressure that will be able to enable the Kindred at the same time. And they actually pick in the Sion here, so it's just a mirror matchup in the top lane with tank versus tanks. Some of it with these two teamfight compositions will come down to execution, but just looking at the two of them, it looks way easier to play than K1ck Neosurf. Granted, they have a lot of easier CC chaining towards them. It's easier just to front to back with this teamfight composition. Schalke 04E Evolution, a bit more poke oriented, a bit more pick potential oriented with the Nautilus, with the Jhin, with the Zoe, obviously granted. So it's a bit harder to play for Evolution here.
They do have the agency, and that's something that we talked about a lot because it has been a consistent problem for Schalke. And if you look at the Prime League as a whole, of course, it's a region that we've kind of categorized as a region that's so diverse because none of the 3 seeds play similarly at all. And Schalke's point is that they're kind of the normal team, quotation marks, within the Prime League. They now have a composition that definitely allows them to just play a straight-up team fight composition. They can poke, as you mentioned. They have some levers that they can pull early on to actually exert pressure. Is it going to be enough, though? Because K1ck has been looking so incredibly clean, basically throughout the entire tournament.
And you are right there. What I really want to see from Schalke Evolution is for them to exert the pressure from the mid lane, and as a jungle mid lane duo, go in and attack Shlatan. Make sure that he cannot do what Shlatan does best, which is get a lead for himself and enable his team through it. You need to be able to attack some of these points. Bot lane is really hard diving onto. Granted, it's a Galio. You have a support from the mid lane that can help them, and they have the Braum itself, and top lane is a tank versus tank matchup. So you need to find the windows where you can probably attack with the team composition Schalke 04E Evolution has drafted.
So now that we've seen these two team compositions, you know, say you're a fresh player, you know, your region has been knocked out. I can speak from experience, very unfortunately.
Well, I'm with you, kind of. 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a little bit better in terms of Danish representation. But say, you know, your team has been knocked out. You're coming into this game with the draft that we've seen thus far. Which are the players that are really going to pop, where you expect to see the big players coming through in the upcoming game?
Well, honestly, everyone that's a K1ck fan need to, like, if you want to be a K1ck fan, you've said it yourself, you need to take a look at Ibo, and you need to be taking a look onto this Shlatan with his Kindred here. But going into it, Ibo might not be as exciting to see because he's playing Ornn.
It's Ornn.
Yeah, exactly. So let's put him in the back, and let's just take a look at Shlatan here. See how he actually does in the jungle. See the wave, not the wave, he's in the jungle, but the jungle path he's actually going to take, how he's going to avoid these attacks that's going to be coming out from Lurox and Sertuss. And then on the other hand, let's flip the coin, take a look at Schalke Evolution here. I think you need to be taking a look at Lurox. I think you need to be taking a look at Sertuss. See how well they're going to exert this pressure and this agency that you have been talking about as well.
And we're having a little bit of network issues, and that's why we're a little bit more delayed. Usually we like to get to the gameplay as fast as possible. But we're giving ourselves some leeway to make sure that you can enjoy a smooth gameplay experience. Now that we've seen this draft, we've said before, Ultraliga, they're looking pretty fine. If K1ck win this, it's a pretty easy run to quarters. Even if they do lose this, they still have the matters in their own hands. Whereas for Schalke, it becomes a little bit more dicey. If they don't win this game, there's still a lot of scenarios in which they do make it out, but there's a lot more pressure on them. Do you think that Schalke, especially with the kind of rough start that they had at the start of the day, are going to make it through here?
And that's the thing.
It's
I
hard.
think
it's
they have to
talk.
Yeah, it really is, because I don't want to single them out yet. I don't want to be like, I don't think Schalke is going to take it, but I think they have the toughest road. I think they're the one who's got most approved. They came in last year Masters at the first seed from the DACH region. They didn't perform in groups. They didn't even make it out of it. And there's just a lot of them to prove as an organization at this EU Masters. And if you can get through this tough road, if you can bring that momentum to the quarters, you are looking good. But obviously, it needs to start today. And the way that these two teams have played off last time, they're behind 4K 15 minutes into the game. You need to make something work in the early game, because it's just a trend for Schalke. If they cannot get their own ball rolling, they have a really hard time when they're playing from when they're behind.
Yeah, we saw some inconsistencies, we saw some positioning errors. Now let's go a little bit more in depth as to what we can actually expect in the game in terms of draft. You already mentioned the Kindred. The early pathing is of course going to be really important with the marks. What can we expect on the other hand from Lurox's Graves?
Well, I think that you need someone who's not afraid to get in there and control and try to attack with the pressure you can get from the other lanes. Granted, I think it's going to come down to a lot of objective controls in the early game. Get that pressure in for your team so you can actually be the first one getting the ball rolling about the first objective, the first strikes. I think they're going to be really important for both these teams, because we have seen that K1ck is a team that don't mind giving up the first one, but for Schalke, it's almost needed in the playstyle they've been going for.
And after a little bit of delay, we will be getting into game number 4 here. It's K1ck playing for the Ultraliga, the number 1 seed, and thus far they have been looking like it versus Schalke 04E Evolution, who honestly have been looking a little bit more rough. But if there is a moment ever for them to take it around, it will be right now.
And so it is. There's a lot of pressure coming into them. We quickly talked about it. The history of the DACH region in general. Schalke 04E have the opportunity today, if they can make this run work, to actually be one of the first German teams getting through to the quarters. Gamer Legion already in the tiebreakers. At best, you would look to succeed them. But K1ck, they want to join a Go Rogue. They've already quite living up to the hype that the Ultraliga has brought into this game. And just to remember it, last time, they were the runner-up against LDLC. You never want to be the runner-up again. That's like the feeling that you're dreading. That's like when you're doing scrims and you're being told, remember how bad it felt last time we lost. That's like one of your main motivations. And you can see this K1ck roster has come in just guns blazing.
The only way where it gets better for the Ultraliga is if they get either a win or an all-Polish final, and k1ck is looking to secure it here. Meanwhile, for Schalke, it is comeback from a rough first game that you played today where you took a rather decisive loss as well, and be able to find yourself again, find that controlling early game that you were talking about, and then snowball it through good objective control. And we know these players mechanically are strong. We know that we have seen them have these highlight moments. There's the question whether or not it is going to be enough. And as we already mentioned, I'm really curious to see what Shlatan is going to do here early, because the Kindred does allow for early invades, as as Matislaw is getting ganked really early as we see the Sleepy Trouble Bubble hit. Matislaw immediately forced a flash there.
And this is exactly what we wanted to see from Schalke Evolution. We wanted to see them be proactive in the early game because they needed to get the ball rolling. And the thing is that Lurox was having a really nice pathing, did the red buff, did the Raptors, and then immediately went to the blue side where you take a look onto the side of Shlatan. He just went to do the red buff and then clear his blue side and path back down. And that means we might get a little scuttle fight when we get down to this bot side, when the scuttles will respawn.
And we haven't really taken a close look at the bot lane. That is, of course, where Puki resides, who, as we said before, big fan favorite and has been playing very consistent, picking up a nice quadra kill in the last game. But how do you expect this lane to really work out? I see as we see some trading back and forth.
I think it's usually one that's just going to bounce back and forth. You want to keep this Ashe safe, but if you finally get a Winter's Bite down, and you do have the support from Shlatan, you can actually go for it, but I don't think we're just going to see it out of nowhere, unless it's a good disengage from an overextension from Nukes on this Nautilus.
You mentioned it before, the mark will be on the bot side. Lurox doesn't want to give that up quite yet, but with the prior looking as is, and the Galio also ready to come in. I'm not sure if they can really go and contest this. We're going to have an early fight here. These marks are incredibly important. The taunt will hit on Sertuss. He can join the fight. And then now we've seen Engage coming through here on top of Nukes. So much damage being thrown down to the Nautilus. He tries to flash, but he doesn't quite find it. Mystiques does, though. Now Shlatan on his own against Lurox will get taken down. Meanwhile, Sertuss turns it around on Matislaw. And this is going horribly wrong for k1ck. They overextend. Puki style might very well die here. The final auto is not enough. And in the end, it's a 2-for-1 trade for Schalke.
And even though Shlatan misses the first mark onto the Kindred, it's exactly as we talked about. There are going to be a fight around this first Scuttlecrab, but due to Matislaw not having flash, he was just being solo killed by Sertuss on the other end. And that is something that came from the pressure that Lurox delivered to the mid game. It's exactly what we wanted from this Schalke roster, and they're delivering on it so far. What we want to see them now is we want to see them exert this pressure when the Drake starts to spawn. They need to get back, they need to have an item advantage, and they need to be the first one on that objective.
Keep Shlatan down and get Lurox and Sertuss ahead. That is the goal that we wanted. That's the objective, and thus far Schalke have been delivering on that.
And it's really easy. You can see from the bot side, Puki and Mystiques actually had the pressure in the early game, and that means they will be able to come up here first. But Nukes, with an honestly really good engage onto one of the lower targets, creates a really easy kill onto Mystiques, who's forced to flash out. And that means as soon as he's there, as soon as the double buff is delivered, yeah, now we can just take a look at the other side. As we talked about, Matislaw, no flash. It was just an easy pickup. Flash continues over here. You keep forcing these summoners, and even though you might not get a kill, you get the wave pushed in. Puki style will lose that as well. That is resources, and once again, a small advantage over to the side of Innaxe. You can see he's already picked up a pickaxe, and on this other side, Puki style has been forced to invest into a little of a garbage sale here. You got the boot, you got the longsword, and you got the dagger. And once again, that means you can get pressure for this Drake, and it's going to be easier to you to fight for. Remember, Matislaw, ever since that first gank, still no flash, and that makes it hard for you to commit onto an engage.
It's a bit unfortunate, Puki style. You know, you go to the shop and you expect to get like the freshest fruit, but then instead you're like, oh, I went way too late. I don't really have anything, and thus far that item disadvantage is gonna be a problem, because the Sion can be incredibly oppressive in lane if you give him these type of leads, especially combined with the Nautilus. Now, we see the early gold lead coming through here from Schalke. That's something where traditionally, if they hit that, they've excelled. Not getting the cannon there, of course, feels rather unfortunate. And they are also making the way to this early Drake. So this far, they're really holding onto the roadmap of exactly what we wanted to see to them. But k1ck don't want to give it over too freely.
They need to be a bit careful here. I really like that they stacked up a wave. It forces the k1ck bot lane to stay down there. But Matislaw now as well has hit level 6 if Shlatan jumps into this one, as he does.
He's going to try and go for it, and he finds the steal! Shlatan doesn't even get punished, he just walks in, gets it, and says thank you very much, and jumps out.
And Shlatan, the hero, comes in clutch. The win condition, or not necessarily the win condition, but what Schalke needed to get going in the early game was these objectives. And Shlatan just comes in and snatches it away from them. Incredible play from the jungler that we have highlighted today.
And we can look at it again, but it seems so straightforward,
It really is straightforward. You could have pulled the dragon up a bit further. I think they were a bit stressed through the pressure from the bot lane that was walking up a bit. And they're not even going to pressure on it. They're not even going to try and kill him. They know that he's just out after that steal.
And now all of a sudden, Shlatan finds not only the Drake, but also picks the mark. And it's starting to look a little bit better for K1ck, and this is something that K1ck has shown time and time again as well. The resilience of these players, even if the initial play might not go well, they are going to keep looking for these openings.
This doesn't mean it's over from Schalke yet. They do still have a substantial gold lead of these 700 gold. They do still have things to play for here. Through Lurox, through Sertuss. But now we want to see them get that pressure. Now we want to see the things they gain need to influence the rest of the map. Doesn't matter if it's the jungle camp, doesn't matter if it's forcing the bot lane away from the minion resources. You just need to let your pressure be known on the map.
Neither the Ultraliga nor the DAC region is going to take anything less than a win this year. For Ultraliga, it's a continuation of last AUM. For the DAC region, it's a kind of a reclaim of that former glory as we see the moves coming through here towards the Rift Herald.
And here's the thing, bot lane and top lane were initially recalling here. I think they were talking about opting into a swap, but they actually canceled it in the end. And that means this Rift Herald is actually going to go uncontested over to the side of K1ck.
And what does this mean? Because where are they going to put this down? Who are they're going to try and get ahead with this early Herald that they can pick up basically for free?
But here's the thing, you got Shlatan who's playing Kindred, and normally as a jungler, you need to take in mind, oh, what laner do I want to get ahead? But here it's Shlatan who's like, oh, what turret is low that I can get my own platings out of?
How can I get myself ahead?
Yeah. Where should I invest my Rift Herald stock? But what I really would have liked to see from Lurox and Schalke that they are opting into now is finding resources elsewhere on the map. I would have wanted to see a bit more attention towards the bot lane, wanted to see them pressure it more. Because as soon as K1ck invests resources towards the Herald, as a team of Schalke, you need to be asking yourself, okay, but what can I get elsewhere? How do I make a small trade into this? And that could have been, for example, a small little Raptor that they did get here onto Lurox.
Now, Schalke, of course, is still ahead in this game in terms of raw gold. Does that mean they're going to hit any spikes early? Does that mean that they fight for the Infernal Dragon that's going to come up in 2 minutes? It's going to be easier, or is it not sufficient enough to really call it early errors? You might be seeing again Nukes. Pretty sure you don't want to face tag that brush. Shlatan just visiting, but not going for anything in the end.
It is going to be about the item spike or the setup in general. I think both top laners are going to be having that TP available as soon as this Infernal Drake is going to be available on the map. But you can already see the items right now. Jhin is well on the way on an Infinity Edge. You can see that Sertuss is already building the Luden's Echo components here. And if they can get the item spikes down faster than they can on K1ck, you're kind of just forced to get it. Or rely on Shlatan to steal yet another dragon.
You know, it's Shlatan, but I'd rather not rely on the steals.
I think you can give it up a bit, yeah.
You can try. You can try. So Shlatan is looking to maybe invest his love for Shelly into this top lane as we see sleeping a little bit far forward. Immediately flashes, really respects it, but they are still going to go for it. Of course, have a lot of damage available here. Sleeping has taken low. That's a knock up into knock up. And Shlatan is doing enough damage. Ibo picks up the kill in the very end, but now the retaliation comes through. Lurox should be careful because we also see that Matislaw has been roaming up, but Sertuss is doing a great job zoning him. In the end, it's just a 1-for-0 kill.
And in the end, it's also Sleeping who used his ultimate, if you remember, to get back to lane. And that means when he flashed out and the pressure was still coming down from the Ornn ultimate, he did not have anything to avoid it. Actually, really smart play by Ibo to actually save his dash to get the knock-up on the turret after he'd hit his ultimate. So really nicely played here, but no Rift Herald going down due to the pressure coming in from Lurox. And with about 20 seconds for this next Drake, The pressure is going to be immense from who gets to it first. You can see Sertuss is backing now. He might pick up a Luden's Echo. He cancelled his recall, so I take everything I said back.
Yeah, not going to give that, and we see Shlatan also pathing to the other side. Not sure if K1ck really want to go for this, because with the posturing, how it's looking right now, I'm thinking that they say, let's leave it at that, possibly also because not having a Call of the Forge Guard is a bit of a problem when you try to straight up fight for the 5v5, and it looks like Schalke is going to be able to reclaim some of the control they have on the game by evening up the Dragon score here.
And they will get the Dragon here. It's also because of the item, it's because of the pressure. But take a look at the top side instead, because Shlatan is back to bully sleeping here. And this is about the small trades we talked about.
And Decimating Smash will find the Kindred in the end, and not sure if they can really go for this now. Redsmite comes through, Heroic Entrance is going to be charged as well, and yet again, Sleeping is getting dove. He does as much as he can, but it will not be enough. Aibo trying to run away from a very, very angry zombie. But in the end, it is going to be yet another kill. But what is the retaliation here for Schalke?
And that's the thing, they're trying to get in there and counter jungle, but what this really was a retaliation from K1ck. This was what we were talking about. They need to be trading back. But now Schalke is looking for the trade, because they're looking at bot lane.
It's a 4v2 dive, and the teleport is coming in as well. Mystiques, beautiful stopwatch that keeps him alive. It's not just a teleport, it's a full-on re-engage coming through from K1ck. They're trying to turn this play around, but now the teleport is going to be channeled. They try to run as Lurox is in the back line doing as much damage as he can. I'm not sure if it will be enough. They return to that turret, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to walk away. Lurox needs to be careful, and if Shlatan was here, this might have turned around otherwise. A back and forth between these two teams.
And this was the thing, they just can't get the kills through. They're so tiny, there's so much mobility. And you asked me, where would he use this Herald?
Aibo? He cancelled the backs.
Oh, there's still the Jhin ultimate.
Fortunately, there is the stand behind Braum. Matislaw tanks a little bit, and the heal has to be used. Look at the damage from Sertuss, but it's just not enough.
Opting in for the bobble instead of the auto attack, missed that kill. Going back to what I was talking about, you asked me, what would he be using that Rift Herald on? What would he be getting ahead? Well, he got himself 2 towers alone.
Yes.
And I don't know if we can take a look at the gold, but I want to compare these two junglers right here and see how big of a lead he has actually excelled for himself. Because Lurox has still been out of the map. He has still been getting the ball running. He's got a kill for himself. Going back to the recall, initially this is a really good trade coming in here, but you can see both solo laners got TP from the side of K1ck, so it's really easy for them to get in here. And as soon as they get this, it's just about chasing it down. As soon as the overextension comes in, it's time for Schalke 04 to get in there, but he just can't find his entrance in here. Lurox is afraid he's going to be turned on. Sleeping doesn't have his ultimate, and it makes it really easy for K1ck to just get out of there. Their main objective is to just stall this. So I don't understand why Aibo does this, because they're getting so many leads for Shlatan in the top side. But you know what? It's a bit of a handicap. It's like, oh, you're not doing too hot right now, Schalke. Let me just hand you this kill. Let's see what happens.
And now K1ck has yet again taken over the control, as we have seen them do time and time again. It was Schalke who had the early lead, but that has now been turned around in terms of gold, and it's K1ck that keeps going for these big plays. But what I'm really happy to see from Schalke is they're not doing this without a fight. They keep trying to make the return plays, and all in all, this game set can still go anywhere.
Completely. They still have one Infernal Drake themselves. They're on to stack the next Cloud Drake, but the real big next objective is going to be this Rift Herald, and it's going to be who's going to get their hands onto this first. Taking a look onto summoner spells, you can see that Innaxe is not doing too hard. Puki does still has his. And in terms of how you approach this Rift Herald, well, from K1ck, it's quite easy. You got a really easy composition to execute, but on the other hand, for Schalke, it's a bit harder. You need to get a pick before you really can approach their objective.
I'm a simple man. I see an Ornn and a Braum on one team, and I think that's a good team fight composition.
So am I. Sleeping, actually looking to be a bit cheesy down here, so while they're giving up this Herald, they're actually looking for plays elsewhere.
And the Drowsy does come through, and this time it's Puki Star kind of defending. The curtain call is not going to be enough, but the unstoppable onslaught might very well be. As we see Sleeping go forward, it's not going to be enough in the end. He gets knocked up, he gets knocked up again. He's still tanking the turret, and there goes Sleeping for the 3rd time this game. It's not been a very fun game for him, as he is the sacrificial lamb time and time and time again.
Silver lining, they get a turret, but
it's okay. It's not great.
You obviously wanted more from that. You can see Sleeping was looking for blood here, but just overextending a bit, not respecting that Galio is around and got his ultimate to enter the fight.
And K1ck has never been an early game team. It's the mid-game where they really shine, and that's what we're seeing again here.
Completely. It's as soon as we get to that 15-minute spike, it's like, all right, now we start to ramp it up as a team. And what I really like about K1ck is as soon as they get a lead and they're setting up for objectives, their main goal is not killing the objective. It's killing you when you try to get the pressure back in the jungle.
How did they get out alive here?
I honestly don't know. Take it out.
There he goes.
Oh.
That's what you got to do as Sion.
I guess so. Like, taking a look onto it, it's a lot of damage coming through. I don't know if you'd opted on for the Braum instead, who's really low. Good ultimate from Mystiques, and it's just CC being layered on top here. There's not much to do. The overextension has already come through, and the pickup is available. You could have stopped it and just taken the tower.
And the inconsistency, I want to say, as we get straight into a team fight here. This is for the Cloud Drake. Both teams currently 1-1, but giving up these objectives is neither of their plans. Sertuss goes forward. Here comes the call of the Forge God, but it will be cancelled with a beautiful depth charge. Dragon rather going low. Nukes can stay alive. It's a beautiful knock-up. It's enough to get them off the team. But is it going to be Shlatan or Lurox who finds this kill here on the Drake? In the end, it will be Lurox smiting it away. And even though there was a lot of action, no one goes down.
And Nukes was the hero in that team fight. What an amazing ultimate he got from the Nautilus here, stopping the ultimate from Ibo. And when you do that, there's just so much more space for your team to actually play around within that team fight.
Lurox, that's a bit of a risk, as
he does get some raptors.
He gets some chicken, but is going to get chased down now. In the end, they decide it's a little bit too big of a risk, and we'll back off here. And you can sense Schalke knows this is a match we need to win. With the second seed of the DACH region, we can't afford to just give up these objectives. And even though the last couple of plays have been a little bit clunky, they don't give up.
Completely, and you can already throw it back to last time these two teams faced each other. We talked a bit about it in the pre-game, but at 15 minutes into the game, K1ck was ahead with 4k gold. And now there's only 1k gold separating them. They do have a lead in terms of dragon objectives. It's just, how do you keep the ball rolling? And honestly, you just keep doing what you do in these teamfights. Sertuss is exposing so much pressure from the poke that keeps coming down. They're playing their teamfight composition exactly how it's meant to be played. Poke, 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 till your enemy can no longer take a proper teamfight around the objective.
And coming into this game, we talked about Shlatan, we talked about Ibo. Ibo, of course, have been put on a little bit more of a supportive role with the Ornn. But it's not Shlatan, even though we've seen him get a lot of gold invested into himself. He's been having the biggest impact. I feel like Puki style, it seems like the man just doesn't die, and
completely
we all
agree.
love Puki style.
I mean, he's just so consistent and coherent in his playstyle. We've seen it time and time again on this Ashe as well, how he'll just go even. One team fight happens, and all of a sudden he's going to have 5 kills, but
Super Trouble always fought by Sertuss. They're throwing a lot of damage here, but the Rogue entrance is making them disengaged. Nukes is the final barrier here as they try to get the knock-up, but won't quite get it in the end after what I think was a great flash from Sleeping.
what happened to the Ornn ultimate? Why did it suddenly just go south?
I think he tried to knock up Sleeping and then flashed over the wall.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he could have sniped Innaxe.
Yeah, that was the thing.
But
Innaxe was really low.
Innaxe was.
I was just really worried for that one. Innaxe getting out with the skin of his teeth there. I think almost under 10%. But going back to it, if Schalke can always divert these, disengage this situation, and regain pressure on the map, regain this resources being pushed into him, they're doing really well. You can see the jungle matchup already. Okay, we're just going to talk about that in a minute.
You want to see this. You want to see this, because what really happens here?
I mean, in general, Shlatan is just having so much pressure onto Innaxe, and then this Ornn ultimate, the flash has already come through.
Yeah.
This
is slow-mo. This is slow-mo. Innaxe wasn't efficient. We're gonna give Ibo a break for this.
Yeah, okay. I'll let him get his redemption in the next team fight.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay, perfect. Luckily, it's not the only one. Man, Shlatan is really not getting a lot of marks in the jungle. Every time I see it out in the open on the map, Lurox is just snatching it away. I'm actually curious to see how many marks that Kindred's got.
And say the game continues on this pace, because thus far it's been a very low kill game. We've seen absolute slugfest here at the European Masters as well, where it's like kill after kill after kill. Take any of the Gamer League games, for example. Now Schalke plays a much more of a traditional, of a slower, controlling style. If both of these teams keep going on, if say the next Drake goes to K1ck, who is going to have the edge here? Because you already mentioned the comp for K1ck is easier to execute, but Schalke are no slouch themselves.
Yeah, since that Schalke is so used to be playing through that traditional way, I think they're quite reliant onto the objectives, either fighting the right fight around these objectives, or when you're setting up for them. Rather, on the other side of K1ck, with the composition they have, it's also really easy just to force a fight out of nowhere if you want to keep it in these objective fights. Once again, I'll say it's going to come down to execution. It's going to come down to Nukes on the Nautilus, and Sertuss on this Zoe. What picks are we getting? You can see every fight so far that has been started by Schalke came from a CC in the beginning.
You say execute. I want a clear answer. I want to know who wins.
I can't tell you who wins.
No, I'm a simple man. Isn't that your job?
Do I look like a fortune teller to you?
No, you don't.
No, right.
No. Okay.
I'm
well,
just
maybe
a small
I went a
boy
little bit
from
hard
the
on you
countryside
there.
of Denmark. I ain't no fortune teller. I can't tell you what you want to know here. But I can tell you that K1ck is going to have an easier time if it just goes into a straight-on 5v5 T-board, everyone ramping into you. Is that good enough answer for you, sir?
Yeah, I'll take it. As Nukes gets hit, doesn't find the hook there, crucially, and he's going to get taunted. He's going to change the seed. Gargoyle Stonefly keeps him along for a really long time. Will go down in the end. This Puki's Carl picks up yet another kill. Sertuss goes forward, but it's not enough. Defensive ult coming through there from the Sion. Shlatan goes in deep together with Matislaw, forcing the flash from Sertuss. And this is all about the objective that's coming in. I say as Ibo goes in underneath the turret, but they walk right into the decimating smash. Lamthus Sprite does come through here, and they're trying to get away. They need to tank these shots. It's going to be the Braum. I don't think he can take another one. In the end, it's layer after layer. Sertuss goes forward, but doesn't quite find the bubble. And now K1ck, they're still moving towards the Drake, but isn't this a big risk?
It can be a bit risk, but you can see now Sertuss is recalling. He does have a TP, so keep in mind on him. Low HP bar. You need to get out of this as K1ck.
They don't want to give it up. The objective is, in the end, going to be taken. And now maybe sleeping a little bit too far forward. Ivo charges back in yet again. And we see the beautiful flank coming through from Matislaw. That's one, that's two. And all of a sudden, K1ck turn this game on its head. They find 3 kills. They find the Drake. And they take everything they want in this instance.
Schalke thought they're going to be the one who's going to be proactive in this team fight with the TP, with Sertuss coming in. But in all honesty, they were being baited because it was Matislaw that came in with the TP, with the home guards, and just got a nice taunt into it. And you're pointing it out quite nicely for me here. Matislaw got smite as well on this Galio.
And he need to make sure that he doesn't die. He's going to be able to get away here. Lurox, it's still very far away, so it's more going to be about the poke, but K1ck, they're just going to re-engage on top of Sertuss and Nukes here. And they stay alive for a little bit longer as Shlatan flashes forward. He has no chill whatsoever. Portal jump delays the inevitable. And the immediate re-engage coming through. And Matislaw, he's fine. He can tank Baron for as long as he wants, and it looks like K1ck is going to be able to pick it up here.
And honestly, this is exactly what I was talking about with K1ck. They're never just a team that's going to have the objective as the main goal. The objective is to kill you.
Oh boy, as here comes the Sion. They're trying to trap them in the pit, but yet again they seem scattered. Schalke want to get something out of this, but it's just going to be kills donated again and again and again. The Ultraliga is not letting them get away with that easily. The Baron gets picked up, and in the end, it's K1ck who wins everything in that extended skirmish.
And Schalke at this point just doesn't look to be on the same page as a team. You can see it throughout every fight. It's almost never a 5v5. Here we get into it again. Pay attention to the TP that's going to come through from Matislaw, because he's going to come through with home guards. And as soon as he does that, they're just caught in a pinch point here. You can see Sertuss that came in with his own TP is just being sewn away by the presence of Matislaw. And K1ck was not the only one with low health bars, so did Schalke. But the problem was they needed to poke down these low HP bars. They didn't need to commit all 4v5. And in the end, it was just great punish from Matislaw.
Coming into this game, we talked about K1ck. What is the strong side of this team? Ibo, Shlatan, yes, Shlatan. Even though it feels like he didn't get that many resources in the early game, still finds impact time and time and time again. And yet again, it's Puki style on the Ashe. It feels like you can't keep giving this man his Ashe because he just looks so incredibly comfortable. And this is a carry that doesn't have any escapes, but he makes it look like you have all the safety in the world.
Completely. And honestly, I just think that it's this K1ck roster as a whole unit. They are a team that's got a lot of high expectations coming in from the Ultra League, finalist last time. And it's kind of needed to show dominance when you're playing great teams like Schalke and 04E as well. You need to not only beat them, but do it convincingly.
Last EU Masters was a deception for Schalke. They didn't make it out of groups. They wanted to get so much further than they did. And it is not quite yet set in stone. If K1ck win this game, they are most definitely through. They will be going to quarterfinals, getting another chance to get back to that final where I'm sure they feel they so rightfully belong. But for Schalke, it's gonna be so hard to still make it out, as here goes Puki style with the engage. Nukes is getting absolutely demolished by the rest of his team. Absolutely nothing that man can do, as we see Sleeping going for a decimating charge, and they might very well decide to just end it right here, right now, without Nukes available. They're pushing in the side lanes, they're going for the inhibitor. Not sure if they want to go for the end right here, or if K1ck is gonna give Schalke maybe a single more opportunity to get back into this game.
See, mid lane inhibitor already down, and you talked about this too, Chronicler. As soon as you get to that 15-minute point of the game, K1ck is just starting to ramp up, and you can see it from the gold lead that they have succeeded right now. 9k gold differential between these two teams. Bubble does land, but I don't think they're going to get more out of that one.
Now the extended trade comes through. See the Deadly Flourish used on Mystiques. He can tank so much though, and it's this re-engage, not even if they go for it, but the threat of it that K1ck has executed time and time again that makes Schalke look scared here.
Completely, and it's just about the objectives out of the map. Now with these two inhibitors down, it's going to be really hard for Schalke to come out and get the resources that's going to be able to make them go for a comeback. Next objective is going to be this Cloud Drake that puts them on soul point on K1ck. So even if you were to stall it in an imaginary world for the next 5 minutes, you are still going to be under the pressure of a Cloud Drake. I think it's going to take a miracle for Schalke 04E to come back from this one now, because they are really far behind, and the ornaments have come out from K1ck.
It is almost 10k gold deficit here. As you say, the ornaments make it even worse. You say Schalke 04E Evolution need a miracle. What is that miracle?
Honestly, it's going to come from a pick, but also at the same time a stupid overextension from K1ck. It's a really hard comeback to make on your own right, 5 versus 5, just because the item difference is so big right now, and the gold difference, everything. So you're praying that you can find a pick, and you're praying you can get your Rabadon's Death Cap through from Sertuss real quick, real soon, or else you're just not going to have the damage to execute onto the pick you're going to get.
Look at the item differentials, as you're saying. Shlatan versus Lurox. Lurox, in the early game, he was doing such a great job at keeping up, but then it's so scary to me that K1ck has a player like Shlatan that even if he doesn't find the leads early, because that's why we really give him a lot of credit, he still gets the edge as the game progresses. What do you do to stop this man? And I say Shlatan, but I feel like even if you keep down Shlatan, how do you keep down Puki style?
I think some of it goes back to the draft as well, just giving over the Ashe, taking over the Nautilus, and leaving Braum open in a double AD carry comp. It's very hard for you to actually get down here and punish it with it. So obviously, Braum pick really good coming out from K1ck here.
Oh yeah, Shlatan. Get that Infinity Edge on Kindred. Yes. Yes, we like to see more
Black
damage.
Cleaver, Runes, Hurricane, Infinity Edge, like... He's just as much as an AD carry as Puki right now, if not even worse in terms of his itemization.
And it's an all-or-nothing engage that needs to come through here from Schalke 04E Evolution. They go in deep. They try to get the backline carries, but both of them are just fine. Sertuss can't quite find the damage. That Sleeping already going down. Tanky enough. He is not, as the Lamb's Respite is going to come through in the end. The consistency of K1ck, the consistency of the Ultra Liga is an absolute sight to behold as they push into the base here. The final minion wave is going to be more than enough for them. Schalke 04E Evolution is going to fall, but it feels like if K1ck is playing like this, there aren't a lot of teams that can prevent that.
And they're looking really convincing. K1ck obviously a contender for this EU Masters as well, and they're letting it know in their group, not only against Schalke 04E Evolution, but also against the likes of LDLC. And honestly, they're just looking really, really good at the moment.
Incredible. Such a performance here from K1ck, and you know, LDLC, they've been a bit up and down. K1ck has just been up. These are the two finalists. They're going to meet at the end of the day, right? It's still possible that that match is going to outshine this one, because in the end, even though you look at that game, it feels like Schalke was able to kind of keep up, but then they just fell through again and again and again.
It was just some of the issues we have experienced from Schalke. They were able to fix their early game this time, but they weren't able to hold on to it. A lot of it comes down to the trading of objectives. But in the end, yeah, they are just outclassed of K1ck in this match.
there is still a chance that Schalke make it through, but it is going to be hard. It is going to be a very hard fight. Now, for K1ck, for the Ultraliga fans, do not worry, because they are definitely going to quarterfinals. We're going to go to a short break, and then we will be right back. Talk a little bit more about the game, as well as the upcoming ones. See you in a bit.